Welcome, Zambia's Premier Analysis Show. So let's get into the nitty-gritties of that game that was played at the Scrivener Stadium, the Nkana Stadium, or whatever you fancy to call it. It was Nkana versus Kitwe United. Helping me with this week's presentation is Dean Mwinde and Chris Kitwe. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Let's get into the tactical nitty-gritties, shall we? Starting off with the starting lineups and the selections that were made by Stephen Mwansa and, of course, Manfred Chabinga in the absence of Beston Quicksilver Chambeshi. So the two selections were as follows. So Chingalika in the orange and Nkana in the red. So Nkana go 4-4-2 in this match with Idris Ilunga Mbombo wearing the shirt number 20 and Ronald Sate Kampamba wearing the shirt number 9 leading the line. But also look out for the shirt number 10. That's Water Walia manning the right wing. And on the Kitwe United side, we had Emmanuel Chabula leading the lines, and we had Makungu and Lolozi actually playing in central defense there. And of course, there was a berth given to Msonda and Kashitu as the two defensive midfielders. So that's 4-2-3-1. Let's get into the tactical nitty-gritties of this game, shall we? Let's begin off by looking at Nkana in attack. The home side, of course, with the big bragging rights, playing at home, they probably wanted to see what they were able to do. So now let's look at Nkana's attack. Let me start with Chris Kitwe now. Now, as you can see on the screen, you have a situation where Give Zulu, the shirt number 27, would forage forward, and you would have Idris Ilunga Mbombo taking up that space between the two central defenders. That's Lolozi and Makungu, the shirt number 20 and 16 for Kitwe United. And you look at Shadrach Malambo, the number 29, coming down deep and almost playing like the second striker. Then Sate, ideally you'd think he's the de facto second striker, but he's almost withdrawing, almost behaving like a number 8, and you'd have Shadrach Msonda on the line. What do you make of Kana's tactical play? More so that in this game, they actually struggled to actually get goals.
Well, if you look at the way they have positioned, they are trying to create some gaps for, Sate and probably Mbombo to utilize, to run in. They are trying to create some gaps, just like they did from the goal they scored. Okay? But my problem is, where is the service going to come from? How is it going to come? Because I don't see much of, wing play or wingers bringing in the crosses, and who is receiving those crosses? There were some crosses that came in. I remember Malambo going early in the game. I remember Malambo going to meet those crosses. But who made the crosses? Surprisingly for me, I saw Walia making the crosses. Walia was the top scorer the past seasons. I believe when the service is coming in the box, he must be in the box. There must be somebody else making the crosses. I think that is where I had a bit of a problem, with their attack.
But ultimately, maybe Manfred Chabinga was actually thinking about this one and said, okay, Water is left-footed playing on the right, so he would definitely cut in. But whipping those crosses, you had Gift Zulu to probably come in. But again, the question is, wait, wasn't Manfred Chabinga and Nkana complicating their lives? Why not play Water on the left, he's left-footed, and play Shadrach Msonda on the right? Maybe you get more crosses and get the wing play and the width that you required, Coach Dean.
I think in modern games, Zete, is that most of the left footers go to the right side and the right footers go to the right side. But I think what they missed out was the strength and the height of Walter Wally. When they were pushing wide, they wasted his chances of him scoring goals. Because as my friend has said here, there were crosses that came into the box. And Walter Walia is good at that. But he was wide. He was not within the striking distance. So in and you need to score goals in order to win. Well, they won 1-0, but it was a struggle. So I think tactically, or maybe positioning of the players didn't go well, according to us who saw what happened, and they struggled to find a goal.
Definitely struggled, but Coach Kitwe, I'm beginning to think in terms of their tactical plan and their modus operandi. You see, Nkana spot for choice in terms of forward options. The temptation to play Water Walia, Sate, and Mbombo is very high. But, well, Water and Mbombo, typical number 9. Sate, a 10 maybe. So, right now, I'm just thinking, maybe Nkana to accommodate all those three, and if they're going to play 4-4-2, would you consider a diamond formation for Nkana?
Well, I don't know. I would believe they need service, and they need the right people to get at the end of the service. So, in my view, Water shouldn't play wide or indeed deep in the middle. He should be in the box when the service is coming. That is what is key to me, because that's how you get the goals. If anything, I don't mind Water and Mbombo, being in the box, the both of them, because even Mbombo is quite, prolific at finishing from the head. You get the point. So they have to juggle around their game in order to have a situation where the crosses will come in for both Water and Mbombo. Ronald Sate is not the player who will score from headers, no, but he's a player who wants space and then runs into the space to go and finish, on the other hand. So they have to
strike a balance
between, how do they use those players and how does the service come in? So probably sacrificing one of them initially to be on the bench, and they have someone who's bringing in the crosses, I guess would be better. Yeah. Actually, it reminds me of a situation we had at the national team way back under Coach Jean Brouwer.
Okay.
If I may, please
go ahead.
It's
good history.
We had Dennis Lotter, leading top scorer in South Africa, coming from a support striker's position, centrally, scoring for Orlando Pirates a lot of goals in every game, almost in every game. But when he called him to the national team, he used him as a left-sided midfielder, and what could you see from Dennis from such a position? What could you see in terms of scoring goals? You could see the boy was frustrated even as he was playing, and we couldn't get goals from him. The nation couldn't benefit. So I think we ought to see how we use our personnel, optimally.
So, anyway, maybe it's a classic case of being forthright with what the team wants to do. They said the devil is in the detail. Let's discuss further what Nkana we're doing in this game. Let's discuss Nkana play out. Now, Nkana we're trying to play out because principally you have a situation where Kitwe United were actually applying a medium press, meaning they would actually retreat into midfield and try to defeat Nkana from there. But here's what would happen, Coach Dean Mwinde. You have a situation where they've got a bit of freedom, in fact, a lot of freedom to actually circulate the ball amongst themselves, the back four. You see Emmanuel Chabula, Holy Songwe, Msonda, Kashito actually drop and form that 4 players in central midfield. And of course, you have Siame and Rogers Mking actually coming and blocking the wide areas. And right there, you quickly notice that shirt number 19, Yannick Mulenda, is not participating in the play out. He's not coming to collect. He's not trying to help Nkana play out and get out of those areas. And by implication, he's easily eliminated by the cover shadow provided by shirt number 17. That's Emmanuel Chabula. And look at Shadrach Malambo. And maybe again, you have that situation in the earlier stages of the game. Nkana would go wide, put in some crosses, and Malambo was actually going to meet them there. What do you make of Nkana's challenges trying to play out in this game?
Well, you see, what happened there is that the first 10, 15 minutes, Shadrack was pushing up. He was using his space in between the left winger and the top man. But eventually, he dropped in the midfield. I think that made them realize that they are outnumbered in the midfield. They didn't win the midfield. So they brought in, they stopped Shadrack Mambo pushing forward. But then it reduced the power in front. Yes, you can see from the diagram that Nkana we are playing slowly, left, right, center. They were trying to draw the crowded players for Kitwe United to come forward so that they can have space to play in, but which they didn't. And Victor Gashitu, I know him from Ron, he was my player, so he's a very good and intelligent player. I think he organized his midfield so well that Nkana struggled. You can see that a few players from Nkana who were loaned to Kitwe United did not play, so it reduced their strength, right? But they still held in Nkana up to the last minute. So I think tactically, I think they were very good.
And I just want to know now, fundamentally, in Nkana, yes, you could tell from the way they started the match that they probably wanted to use the width of the pitch, make the pitch big, make Kitwe United actually chase them in the wide areas and whip in those crosses. And I'm thinking, in doing that, did they probably also put it in the script? Okay, Yannick Mulenda and Malambo, it's okay, just stick around. Anyway, we'll push the ball wide and try to hit Kitwe United there. Was it important that those two players began to participate in Nkana playing out at the back and helping the team progress into the latter stages of the pitch?
Well, firstly, yes, Nkana were trying to build up from the back, but I see a ploy here. They deliberately didn't want to use, in my opinion, they didn't want to use the central midfielders, in their attack play. They wanted to play the ball forward, and then one of the midfielders joins the attack, who is in this case Malambo. That there's no problem there. But like I keep saying, my problem is who is in the box, who's receiving the balls, and who is bringing in the accurate services. You get the point. On the other hand, I want to give credit to Kitwe United. It was a derby, and however, derby is the way they are. However, one team is strong, however strong one team is at a particular time, however how weak the other team is at a particular time, when they clash in a derby, there are no easy games.
No easy games indeed.
So Kitwe United defended well. They closed the spaces, because if they had left a lot of spaces, Mbombo and Sate were going to utilize those spaces. It was going to be easy for them to penetrate.
All right, so in a game that Nkana expected to actually straw and cost and probably be too much for Kitwe United, it proved to be a very good contest. So Kitwe United, their away team, probably gave us a nice treat for those of their persuasion and anybody traveling on the other side of Kitwe to actually go and support them. Let's have a look at Kitwe United in attack, shall we? And as we evaluate what Stephen Mwansa's men were trying to do in terms of trying to bag a massive 3 points against their cross-town rivals, that's Nkana Football Club. So if you actually look at Kitwe United in attack, let's just start off at the play out level, shall we, in how they were beginning to construct their attacks. So Kitwe United would basically do this, okay? So Nkana would actually have an individual uncoordinated press that is in 1v1 situations where Mbombo or Sate would press, not at the same time, probably one after the other, hoping that when one goes, he'll win the ball, and probably there'll be a turnover. But just look at the lines of pass that Kitwe United forms just from their play out. Already you can see The back four can already see each other. Central midfield is already in the loop. And yes, once they got into midfield, because if you look at the numbers, the 2 central midfielders plus 3 attacking midfielders, that makes it 5. And yeah, Waterwale is being forced to track back. Okay, and from a very awkward position, from a central area, so must be not very easy to lock himself into that position. But once they get there, and you have a situation where Nkana's back four are actually sitting, and you have the shape number 19, Yannick Mlenda, is actually screening there. It was pretty much easy for Nkana to actually get Emmanuel Chavula out of this game. Pretty much anonymous for most parts, Coach D.
Yeah, I think if you look at Kitwe United, I watched the game and I saw the way they were comfortable on the ball. They were building up slowly, just trying to attract the midfield of Nkana. And for them, I think they didn't expect to win as such, but they at least they wanted to pick a point, and they almost did that, because most of the time, even if they are under pressure, they were not panicking. This made them not to lose the ball easily, and a few times they have gone through and they tried to shoot maybe 2 or 3 times, but to me, I looked at it as if it was not an attacking formation which they wanted to use. They were so comfortable piling the midfield.
Okay, now apparently you pack the midfield, you've got the superior numerical advantage there, but you need to get into the final third. And you have Emmanuel Chavula, isolated figure, and right there you now need runners to run into the final third. Now make those passes go and translate into goal scoring opportunities in the final third. Perhaps this was their Achilles heel in this game.
I agree with you 100%. Normally when you play, you sit deep and, close the spaces in your defending. When you win the ball, you want, because you've sacked the opponent, you want to go on a counter, and therefore you need players who will, run and join the attack quickly, join the isolated figure of, Chavula. I think that is where where they didn't do too well. Even though I think I remember Siame, the left-footed midfielder, made a lot of runs, but they were not, that effective to actually hurt Nkana, because literally, if you talk about shots on goal, you talk about how many times Nkana was threatened. It was completely new. The goalkeeper was literally on holiday. Yeah, save for 1 or 2 times. I think when the game started. The penalty incident, which I would think was a penalty if from the cameras the way it looks like, unless at the contact really there was no contact by the keeper. Apart from that, I think they didn't create such many chances to be able to have a goal.
All right, so very difficult. Now, it wasn't all doom and gloom. They said to every dark cloud there's a silver lining. Let's just look at what Kitwe United, rather, were able to conjure up by way of set pieces, and just basically discuss what they were able to do in terms of set pieces. Now, look at that graph, shall we? You have a situation where now they were getting in between the lines, behind the midfield and in front of the defense, and you have a situation where Nkana committing a lot of fouls there. And I'm just thinking, if you are, based on Quicksilver Chambesha, looking at this one, and then you are playing maybe a Zesco with a Silengo who can hit them, or with a Kapumbu, or you're playing a Power Dynamos who have a Kelvin Mubanga who can strike them, you can't be conceding free kicks like that. It probably speaks into defensive priority, if anything.
Zita, this was dangerous. You don't sit and defend near your 18-yard box. At least, if you want to defend, push your players up into the second third, and that's when you can try to delay or to make fouls. In modern football, it's very dangerous to have such free kicks. And I am surprised that Kitwe United didn't utilize those. You know, whatever instruction the coach must give to the players, play away from your own goal. Because if you have good free kick takers, you'll be done and buried.
Now, I'm just thinking, for Nkana, we talked about their marking and what they were trying to do in transition defense. You are conceding that number of free kicks, and to make it worse, you have a situation where if Siame comes very deep, gives Zulu his man marking him. And part of the problem there is like Waterwalia is not really coming to help double team Siame, and you have a situation where Mwewa is actually going up and providing a lot of thrust, but ultimately, could it be an issue of how Nkana, the whole team, the plan that they have in terms of winning the ball back? Could it be the fundamental question there, or could it be the players who are playing in that zone where the free kicks are being conceded are to blame?
Well, firstly, what those situations of free kick in that area were created because of the counter-attack situation. Nkana wanted to go all out and attack and get a goal, and they've been under pressure, not winning at home, right? So they wanted to get goals, but it was difficult for them, so they pushed men forward. And now when Kitwe countered, that is how those situations were created, because as they were coming, they should have utilized those chances. If it was another team, I agree with you. I agree with Dean. Another team would have utilized those chances. But then those free kicks were created because of being outnumbered at some points, and
the only time they got the numerical advantage is probably in the final third.
Yeah.
And because Emmanuel Chabula was an isolated figure up front. So, let's now talk more. In terms of the crosses that Kitwe United were able to put in and the shot structure, let's just try to paint the picture and see what Kitwe United were able to do. Now, gentlemen, look at that. Straight balls, those were the shots. And actually, between the lines is because Nkana was giving Kitwe United that opportunity to hoover and prowl in front of the 18. They were striking, but alas, not getting Maplanga to actually work. And look at the number of crosses they actually put in. But the shocking statistic there is that none of those crosses actually landed on a target. Now, that's a very big scandal. Now, I begin to ask myself, is Chabula the wrong player to play that center forward role in that game? Or there's something wrong? You are not supposed to be crossing in the first place. Probably supposed to be doing cutbacks, which is not happening.
I think in football, modern football, it's not only one person who can score goals. Unless if they were stereotype. If they were stereotype, maybe they would look at Chabula every time. But midfielders, wingers, attacking players or defensive players, they can still score goals. There are some fullbacks who can overlap now. We use wing backs. So we cannot put the blame on one person. They must complement each other. There must be a triangle movement. Where your friend has left the space, you can go on a blind side and they can use you. But unfortunately, look at you have shown the statistics there. That's why maybe even on the log, we haven't scored more goals.
Now, I'm just thinking now. I would want to think you'd forgive Stephen Mwansa for thinking and say, gentlemen, my tactics are designed to take you up to the final third. Once you get to the final third, you have to score. I'm done. I've taken you to school. Go inside class and get straight A's. His players didn't do it. So, is it a tactical problem, or now the players now need to look at themselves and say, Coach, we let you down. Your teachings and your tactics were spot on.
Well, I guess they have. That's an area of the game that they need to improve on, because they had a lot of chances to bring in crosses. Nobody got to the end of the crosses. There are basically three positions around the goal post. There's the near post, there's the central area, and the back post. So those three positions have to be manned each time someone is going to make a cross. So if players move at the correct time as the cross is coming in those three positions, the chances of converting a goal from a cross is now that takes time to develop. You have to plan your tactics rightly and make your runs correctly and arrive in the box at the right time.
So final third tactics in your view?
Yeah, basically yes.
They need to work on those.
That's an area they have to improve on.
No holiday for Stephen Moss.
No ways.
No holiday, coach. No holiday, coach. Let us get working. Let's now discuss what gave birth to all those things for Kitwe United. Let's discuss the Nkana marking and generally just talk about how Nkana were marking and trying to apply themselves when it came to team function defense. Now, when you look at Nkana defending and marking, here's the situation, and this was a classic picture throughout the match. So let's get it from where the attack orchestration is actually beginning for Kitwe United. They play out. So the Siame plays to the central defense. Then you've got Mbombo and Sate, they are trying to press. And you have the shirt number 20, Mbombo, who makes that arrowed run towards Makungu, trying to dispossess him. And what does he do? He passes the ball to Lolozi. And once he does that, you've got Msonda, who's actually coming short to actually take up the initial position that Mbombo actually took. And right there, Kitwe United are out of jail. They have eliminated both Sate and Mbombo. And yeah, they're in midfield, their favorite zone, where they've got 6 bodies compared to only 3 or 4 for Nkana, depending on the situation. But most importantly, in the central areas, it's 3v1 because of the attacking tendencies of Mr. Shadrack Malambo. Now, for me, in the Super League, for a team that played continental football, I'm scared. If you mark like that, I'm scared. I don't know if you're half as scared as I am.
I think this problem comes to the 3 strikers. I mean, you have put Cletus, you put Shadrack Mbombo, Idris Mbombo, and there were 3, okay, and Sate. When they are marking, they were not winning the balls. They were just like shadow marking. And when they are beaten, you know how the strikers are. They never drop back to come and help the midfield. And so that was the weakness of Nkana, where if you put the 3 strikers, know that you have to have maybe 2 strong defensive midfielders. But if you don't have, you will have a problem. Those people are lazy to chase back. They can chase, but they can't win the ball.
Now, could that be a fundamental problem? I for one, didn't expect to see it at this level, especially in Nkana, continental club side and whatnot. You will get lynched on a bigger stage defending like that.
Well, ideally, when you have the ball, the whole team participates in attacking. Okay? And yes, you will have some caution in how you attack. Just in case we lost the ball, how do we recover? So it is the recovery lines that are very important in working on. And well, I believe there is some work to do there. And because we saw the counters, if it was a better team, probably they could have utilized those situations. But again, I'll still say that, you see, in Nkana we are desperate to get this win because they had been losing at home for some time. They've been playing under pressure, and therefore that's another reason probably for those lapses. But the thing is, they wanted to go out and attack, and when you do that, definitely you'll be vulnerable. You will definitely be vulnerable. That's why, even at the top level, sometimes the Morinos will be accused of parking the bus and just going in counter attack, because maybe he respects the opponent too much. Going all out, there is always those risks.
Talk about club risky business. Well, that club risky business yielded something that saw Sate actually scoring that goal and making it 1-0 in favor of Nkana. So let's talk about the birthday boy. It was his birthday and what he was able to do. Now, second striker, one touch in his own half. Now, inside the opposition half, pretty much between the lines, but two touches of the ball inside the 18. Of course, he did one driving run there into the 18 and he was later dispossessed. So, one goal, one scuffed shot, he missed. That was Sate's report card. But who cares? He's the birthday boy. He's made us win. But tactically, what can we read out of that?
Yeah, I think each system has got its own weakness, and the goal when it was scored, there were a lot of defenders there, but Sate passed in between them, and each one of the defenders, this one thought he's going to go with him, the other one thought he was going to go with them, but Sate is an experienced player and he's a poacher, so he read the mind and just went in between, and
it was tossed.
Just
anyway, let's just have a look at the touch map for Sate again and what he was able to do. And right there, perhaps the warning should have been there for Kitwe United long time ago, is that Sate will never stick. You always want to come from deep. The question is for Msonda and Kashitu, how do you pick him up? Because ideally, the central defender is actually thinking, Makungo and Loloza are actually thinking, okay, we are picking up Sate and Mbombo. When Waterwale comes into this zone, maybe Kashitu picks him up. But how do you deal with Sate when it goes very deep? And apparently where we are trying to discourage players from tracking the player from marking. Tracking the player they are marking, rather. How do you deal with that one? And perhaps that is the biggest lesson for Kitwe United, because it cost them points, failure to mark in such a situation.
Yeah, at the point when that goal was scored, apparently Kitwe United had more of the ball. They ventured into attack more at that time. They had become comfortable and were going in attack, and therefore they left some spaces. If you remember carefully, Sate came from a deep position, utilizing space that was created, and that is the type of situation that he strives on, because he's a runner who uses space. In fact, if you want to get a lot of goals from Sate, you create a situation where the opponent will create space. The opponents leave themselves vulnerable. They leave space. And that is how that goal was scored. Of course, Kitwe United, I think they wouldn't perpetually close the spaces for the entire 90 minutes, because they started going forward also to get a goal, and in the process, you leave space and concede a goal in the manner they conceded.
Okay, that was our analysis of Nkana's death with Chingalika Kitwe United. It will probably go down in history as a conversation that needs to be continued. Regards when to man mark and when to zonal mark.